Crazy Gamer Models. I am the Crazy Gamer and I do models. I'd like to wish everybody a happy Halloween on this October 31st, 2019. We are doing a very special build of the starting of the USS North Carolina. We will be talking about a little bit of the history here, and then we will be getting into looking at all our components and getting started on some of the stuff. Interesting fact about this North Carolina is a lot of the preliminary concepts wanted 14-inch guns, and only a handful of designs wanted the 16-inch weapons. There actually was going to be a vessel, Project F, that was going to feature 3 longbow catapults, 2 quadruple turrets on the stern. The hybrid design was reportedly very well received by President Roosevelt and become his firm favorite. Of course, that's not what was built. It doesn't have the 3 large bow catapults. It has the stern catapults, and it doesn't have the quadruple turrets. So the final design, it was powered by 4 sets of gas electric turbine engines, generating about 121,000 shaft horsepower. The steam was produced by 8 Babcock and Wilcock boilers. It had a top speed of 28 knots, but it dropped significantly as it put on weight following wartime refits and modernization. So let us take a look at the North Carolina. So here we go. We have, let's go to this camera. We have the North Carolina. Here's our box. It is Trumpeter's kit. I'm going to find the kit number on here in a minute. It's their 1/350th scale. It is kit number 0530. You can see right there is kit number 05303. So there it is right there. So here's what we got. I've already done an unboxing of this kit showing off all the sprues and of all the upgrade kits we have for it, because we have the Tom's Model Works, some photo etch from them. We have Edard's photo etch, and then we have some Alliance Model Works gun upgrades, mainly the 20mm Alarcrons, the twin Bulfer, the quad mount twin Bulfer 40mm cannons, and then the 5-inch 38 caliber dual purpose anti-aircraft hard target weaponry. So there's a lot of turrets and a lot of guns on this. Hey JD Rose, hey John, how's it going? There's a lot of stuff going on. So let's just crack into this box and see what we have in here. And also, if you've watched any of my other videos, you've seen my streaming setup, but I've added the instructions to a viewing of it. So as I talk through the instructions, you guys can see what is actually going on. Now, as I talked about in a previous live stream on a Feedback Friday, I talked about this hull and the first part of the instructions. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this hull out here. I'm not going to worry about any of the other sprues, but I want the lower hull, the upper hull side piece, and then I want the decking. So there's 3 pieces of decking here because there's going to be some modifications that need to be made to the standout too. There's going to need to be made some modifications to make this fit seamlessly when it goes together. And I'm going to show you in the instructions what I'm talking about here, hopefully. Not moving them around too much. So take a look at this first page of the instructions. It has us placing the 3 deck pieces on top of the upper hull. And that would be these three pieces here into this piece right here. So they would pop in, after they're cleaned up, of course, because there's some sprue nibs on there that we're going to clean up here in just a second. But they're going to pop in basically like that, and then you're going to build the whole ship up. And then at the very end, you're going to place it on this lower section. And test fitting some things and looking at some things, what I've discovered is if we were to assemble all this and build the whole upper deck and all that, and we came to mounting this piece on here, we were going to have some fit issues. So my solution is to solve those fit issues now, so we can fill this seam if it needs to be filled, fill any low spots, fill any high spots, get this perfect, make sure the deck pieces still fit inside, and then we can just build up, and then we can actually, work with it on. Wow, I thought that would fit on this stand better. Wow, hold on, let's check this stand out. What is going on with this stand? It doesn't even hold the ship. Maybe the stand is for water line? So we're going to revisit that, because it doesn't, I thought it was going to be like a seated mount in there. Well, we'll revisit that when we look at the instructions. So there goes the stand, we're going to put that away. So let's clean up some of these parts. Now if you can see at the bottom here, there's a seam. You can see that down there. There's some nibs on there. So if I get those cleaned up, I get in here, get my Tamiya 123s. Now, cut these flush here. Now we're going to paint this. We're not going to leave it this. I mean, it's going to be painted similar to this color, but it needs work. I don't like this bottom seam on here at all. And also, I don't know if you can see in there, there's a little divot. Let me get my pointer out. There's a little divot right in there. I need to check the references to see if that divot is going to show up, and it needs to be filled a little bit. So, as I said stated in previous videos, we are building the 1944 version of the North Carolina after it has been refitted with its modern equipment. So let me get some sanding sticks out. So flexi-file sanding stick. So I'm just going to take off some of this rough edges around here. So let's see here. There's a little bit of damage around this back part, so we want to make sure that that's going to fit. Check all these sections here. Make sure everything is good to go. Let's see, we got a high spot there. I'm going to come in with a file. Knock that off with a file right there. I love you being able to shift to the instructions. Well, yeah, I just came up with that. I was like, I had a webcam, and I'm like, boom, instructions. I have a better setup I'm going to do later. This literally just came to me. Honestly, I'm kind of curious how many cameras I can hook up to this streaming software. This is incredible. When I found out I can record videos with this setup without even having to be live. So I'll be able to do all my videos, and it'll save on editing and all that stuff. And it's Streamlabs OSB, so it's a free software. You don't have to pay for it. Final edit and export and stuff, I use a software. I use Filmora 9. I'm sure that sounds good, people. Sorry. Just want to take that sharp edge down. Alright, let's see what we can do with this underside here. Now, you want to keep this flat. You don't want to come in with a smushy sanding stick because you're going to put divots and things in there. So for this, I do recommend a sanding block. And I should have a sanding block that just happens to be where the instructions are. So hopefully I can grab that without messing them up. Let's see if they're still good. Yeah, the instructions are still there. So, let's see here. I got a whole mess of sanding in here. So we're going to find this one and this one. And we'll go in here. Okay, so off to the side. So these are trumpeter sanding frames, and you just double stick tape a piece of sanding paper to it. And actually, I saw a review from Nigel's modeling bench from Premium Hobbies, premiumhobbies.co.uk. They have a 3D printed sanding set that is like this. That is just absolutely amazing, and it's dirt cheap. I don't know if they deliver to the US, but yeah, it's awesome. You check out Nigel's modeling bench. Awesome modeler, does awesome projects, but he just reviewed it just the other day, yesterday, and they're awesome. So I'm just going to sand this line off here. Hopefully you can see on this camera. It's hard to trying to keep all this in frame here. See, it comes to you cut off where the nubs are cut off. And I don't particularly care for that. I like to cut off my own sprue gates so I don't have any issues like this. But there's some high and low spots. I know this is probably shaking the camera, and I'm sorry. The camera's actually attached to the table I'm sanding on. Okay. So, that's almost taken down. I'm going to come with finer grit. I don't know how much we're going to get done today, and honestly, I had planned on it being Halloween, doing some cool ghost stories from the North Carolina, but of course I had computer issues yesterday, so I was unable to prepare for that, even though I have a wealth of information that was provided to me. I do know that there was a lot of interesting stuff, especially when they played the music from back, in that era, like Glenn Miller. I remember getting the information that when they played Glenn Miller, there was a lot of activity on some of their devices. And Sick Bay had a lot of activity and things like that, so that was kind of cool to see. One ridge right here. I'm actually going to come in with some sandpaper. this is 320 grit. I think it's K&S sandpaper. I'm not sure. Got it at a local hobby store, not my new local hobby store. And this is wet dry paper, and it can be washed off. So, and I'll come in with a finer grit paper. Come in with a 400 and then a 600. And I could use this wet, you see like I said, this is wet dry paper, but I think I'm going to be fine just like this and then go into the 600. I will be using a microfiller primer, so 600 will be the finish I need to have left on here. And again, I apologize for the camera being shaking. Just imagine you're on a boat. The rim pod went crazy. Yeah, that's what it was, the REM pod. Still not 100% sure what a REM pod is. I know you know what a REM pod is, JD Rose. But it's cool. The information is so much information about people, where people died and where there was activity. One of the most things that stands out the most, and I don't know if I talked about this before, but someone was doing some paranormal investigation, and I believe it was sick bay. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, JD Rose, but something sat on the mattress and depressed the mattress with nobody there. Like, you could actually see the mattress depress, which I thought is freaking amazing. So that's pretty cool. That was out there. I want to say that was in sick bay, but I know I have an awful memory. But we'll get on there. So that is this lower hull section, all cleaned up on the bottom. Needs to be dusted off and things like that. So honestly, this lower hull looks 3D printed. If you look at the lines in there, it almost looks 3D printed. It's crazy. It's possible. I'm not sure how Trumpeter does their stuff. This looks molded. Okay, let us check this. Yeah, this has a lot of cleanup that needs to be done on these inside pieces here. So let's see if I can. We're gonna get the scalpel out, and we're gonna do some dangerous stuff now. Always cut away from you with a scalpel. I would recommend you not even use a scalpel, to be honest with you. But I'm going to use it here like an idiot. See, I almost cut towards me just right there, and I know better. I've seen a lot of accidents with these kind of knives. Scalpel's no joke. But where some of these are located is you kind of got to perform surgery to get it cleaned up. Alright, there's that side. One more scary side with the scalpel. Maybe we'll zoom in for this one so you can, so if the blood runs, you guys can get a good view, and then we can have a haunted ship for real. So, let's see here. You're always waiting for me to cut myself, aren't you? Yeah. Yeah, I'll just wait for it. Yeah,
I've been having, I'm telling you it's going to happen. Probably shouldn't even mess with the scalpel today. Alright.
Should be getting back on track with videos this week too, now that we got the new computer set up, and I'm going to be doing a special live stream for those who helped make it possible. So I'll come up with something. I gotta come up with something. Plus do my normal videos. Now see, we got one in here. See, this is just crazy. How y'all liking this 2-part camera with it? You like it just one camera, or so? I talked all about those instructions and we're not even using them yet. So this is kind of in there at an angle, and I'll try not to get my head in the shot. And technically, you probably don't even need to clean these up because nobody's going to see it. But y'all watching me do it right now, and y'all going to see it. You guys see it right now, so it's going to be cleaned up. And if you don't want to use a scalpel, or you have little kids and you want them to model, you can use one of these Citadel mold line scrapers. I actually introduced these to my machining colleagues at my former employer, and they use these as a much safer tool than using X-Acto knives to deburr plastic parts. So these things are great for that, you know. And they seem to like them a lot. They've actually asked for some more. They are darn expensive. They are really expensive. Yeah, see, I'm not going to cut that off. I'm not doing that. I'm not living dangerously today. Okay, so that's cleaned up. Let's take a look at this fit again. And then I'm going to clean up the other pieces. Yeah, see, it could go together really well. See, I don't know if that's supposed to be there for the bulbous bow, but we're going to look at the reference here in a minute. And you know what my reference is going to be? My favorite North Carolina book. John, you know what book it is. Super Drawings in 3D. Yeah. So, you knew that was going to happen. Love that book. I'm telling you. You know what the sad part is? All the books they have, they don't make model kits for all the books. So I don't know what they use them for, but they don't make model kits for all those books. Wish they did. I tried, and then some of them are out of print and going for $300 on the internet. I was like, what? So, but I found another cool book. If you follow my Instagram or my Twitter or my Facebook page, there's the links, guys, and they're also in the description below. If you follow my social media, you'll know I posted some pictures of some Japanese Yamato battleship stuff, and we're going to do a whole week dedicated to the Yamato, man, that's hard to say. And we're going to be doing all kinds of stuff with that. So we're going to have a whole week talking about it, and it is going to be a kit that is compared to, we're going to build them both up, and we're going to compare them against each other. You know, pride and joy of America versus the Japanese, Imperial Japanese. And I'll tell you one thing I noticed that was really different, just checking these out, is the Japanese really only got rice to eat, where we fed people full course meals. Now, as you can see in here, let's get the pointer down, and hopefully you can see. In here, there's this step right here, and where that step is, it's sticking out right here. Like, you can feel that all right here. Right here is real bad. And then over here, it's sunken in, so it needs to go out. So I think that needs to be one of the first things that's done. Unless you're doing the water line, I don't think it matters. You can just glue the water line in and then it's not really going to matter. But if you want the full lower hull of the ship, it's going to, if it has a seam or a step, it's going to look awful. It's going to look really, really bad. And hey look, this camera hasn't froze up yet. Let's knock on wood on that though. With that. Alright, let's clean up these pieces here. And now, there's no sprue gates on these things that you know where a sprue gate is. You have to look at the part very carefully and examine here that there is a gate remnant right here and right here. And we can confirm that by looking. Yeah, that's the right page. Let's see if this pulls up. Look at that, it did pull up. Now, I'm having focusing issues with this camera, but I'm going to work that out in the future. Now, I'm going to come over here to this camera, and I'm going to point to this. Well, I'm going to try to point to this. This is the part we have right here. That's this part right here. And you can see we have these two tabs right here, but they're not present on this. Just this tab is present on that. So we know that we need to take those two things off. So, and then just to confirm, we'll look at, I'm going to use these instructions, and yeah, they're interfering. We're going to go back to this view and see those would interfere with the deck going together, so we know they come off. Now, you can come in here with your Xeron professional photos or professional and cut it close, but I want this fit to be superb because I do not want to have a filler line and try to cut in this wood. So this is where it gets a little crazy. So we're gonna try to get this perfectly matched up. So I'm going to go in slow here. I don't know why I went slow. In case you're getting seasick from the wobbling boat or boat action. So we're going to look at these two pieces. And we're going to see that they're going to match up. And there's actually a little bit of remnant on there. So I'm going to get these are sanding pads. These are from Stevens International. It's a hobby company. They sell worldwide. They're a nice, flat, hard sanding stick. Just make sure that's square. Make sure I get the burrs off. So I want that edge nice and square to match up. Because you do not want a seam in your deck. Let me tell you right now. You want to do a little bit of sanding and a little bit of fitting. A little bit of sanding, a little bit of fitting. So, actually I'm going to use a file to keep this square and get this down here. Divot into it. I know some of this is boring, people. I'm sorry about that, but you know, I want to show you guys how this is done, and I want to do it for you guys live, but I also want a good looking ship model. I mean, I could just saw this off and have a big old filler gap there, but I don't want, I'm going to try to avoid that at all costs. Okay, so we are almost touching in the middle, a little off on the sides. Okay, I know it's not perfectly union, but we'll fine tune it once it's in the hull. We'll fine tune it the rest of the way. Now let's check this one for sprue gates, and yes, there is one right here on the edge. Now these aren't that, they're going to go up to the edge of the ship, so we'll just cut these a little bit closer. I'll just hit these with a file. Zoom back out. Sorry, guys. A lot of noises today. Okay, let's see how we're looking here. Let's see if we put this in there. Like that. And then we place this there. Oh wow, this is going to be a thing right here. Okay, so I'm just going to set this off to the side there for a second. I'm going to place this down. Now it wants to spring away from me. So we are going to do some creative blocking of this down. So I am going to get my Tamiya tape. This will work. This is the 10 millimeter. And I'm going to tear it off so I can't peel it. Now you guys get to see me wrestle with the tape dispenser. Look at that. This is a video, let me tell you. Okay, so now I'm going to lock this back section in here. I'm going to make sure it's tight along there, like that. There we go, like that. Now I'm going to do the same. And this will all get glued in the future. But right now, I just want to hold it in place for test fitting purposes. And this is shipbuilding, guys. I mean, this is model building. It's not open up the instructions and go. I mean, there's issues that you have to deal with. Sometimes you don't follow the instructions perfectly. You have to jump around a little bit. Sometimes it goes very well. Like tack-on kits, I always never had a problem with those. I made a little issue here and there, but trumpeter kits now, especially the older kits, like the Yag Tiger, I tend to have a little bit of issues with. But so far, this isn't too bad. So we have that deck plate in. Now, what I want to do is try to get this one in. And I want to take off a little bit of edging right there. Okay, so we got that cleaned up. Well, that's the wrong way, of course. Make sure you put it in the right way, guys.
Okay, so that's that. So now we're going to put a little bit of tape on that section. And you don't have to use Tamiya tape because I know it's ridiculous in price. I do have some other tape, some not KT tape, rice paper tape that I have, but this was at reach, so I grabbed this. So I'm going to continue down this section here. Oh, the chat's awful quiet. You guys must be really interested in this. So the original point of building the North Carolina was to be a capital ship that dominated the seas and was the thing that basically defined the Navy, was how powerful and how much damage and how much destruction your battleship could do. I mean, that's why the treaty was signed in the 30s to prevent skyrocketing battleship designs, the people just building crazy stuff like what the Japanese ended up doing with the Yamato. I can't ever get it right. It's going to be a funny video. And this was the first one that, after we dumped out of the London Treaty, after the Washington Treaty expired. So we're going to clean this one up now. But it turns out that battleships were not the deciding factor in naval battles. It was the aircraft. It was who could put the most planes in the air and on targets to target, destroyers. And the battleship basically became a support ship for carrier groups. And they were originally designed with maximum firepower and big guns and things like that. And then as time went by, they were fitted with more and more anti-aircraft stuff. Like in the beginning, the North Carolina had very little. I mean, it didn't have very little anti-aircraft, but it didn't have the anti-aircraft that it had in 1944, the one we're building. It had 1.1 millimeter mid-range anti-aircraft, and then basically it had some Browning 50 calibers, water-cooled Brownings that were the basic anti-aircraft guns that the sailors manned on the deck. So okay, let's see how this fits. Okay. Now it's a tight squeeze in there, let me tell you. Just gonna sand this a little bit right here. So you guys are seeing the building process 100% live. So 41 minutes in and we haven't even got the glue out yet. Probably not going to get the glue out. Okay, so I'm going to put tape on that. We'll check on this fit. The nose of this is wanting to pop up a little bit on here. Now this North Carolina is going to be done with 3 different upgrade kits. And then I'm doing a ship in the future that is going to have just the one Photos upgrade kit, Photos upgrade kit. That's the Yamato. God, I never get that right. And also, I have some special stuff planned for the Yamato that has to do with the railings. Because if you heard me talk about the railings with the North Carolina, if you look at the reference photos in the fantastic 3D book, you look at the reference photos, there's sag in all the railings. It's more of post in the ground, and then a cable that goes through that. And if you visit the North Carolina in Wilmington, North Carolina, I believe, you can actually see the railing in person. In person, it's more like I said, it's like poles with cable ran through the poles, and they actually make, Tamiya makes it, they actually make that where you drill little posts into the deck, and then you string a cable through it, and that gives you the perfect sag. And it will probably be the hardest thing in modeling I ever do, and it will probably be done one time, and I will never do it again. Alright, so let us peel back the tape that's blocking this joint, because I pulled my tape along. We're going to see how this fits. So the 5-inch 38 caliber guns, they were a dual purpose gun, so they could fire anti-aircraft rounds in the air, and their fire control directors were able to track targets. Not like we track targets today, and they were able to put a lot of flak in the air to shoot down ships. Okay, so now let us see what this is going to look like here. Okay, so looks good on the back end here. So I got hopes for this. I really do. I think it's going to go together. I think it's going to go together well. There's a little bit of like raised sections here, and there's a little bit of a step up here. But I think, yeah, there's a little bit of a step in there that we're going to have to take care of. But it's not that bad. If it just needs to be pushed in just a smidge. Just a smidge to get that out. So what I do is I take one of my super thin razor saws like these, one of these right here. These Hasegawa tri-tools, one of these razor saws, and I cut a very thin section of this. I can then be able to squeeze or stretch this to match the hull perfectly. And then after I match it up perfectly, I will reinforce this with some plastic card, some styrene strip to reinforce this, because as you can see, there's a lot of gap, there's a lot of space in here, so I can reinforce this pretty heavily, and it won't have any kind of bow in there like that, and also it'll make it so this will glue together really nice if I make the strips perfect. I match it to this, glue the strips on, match it to this, make sure everything's still good while it's wet, and not glue the deck in, and not glue it on here. Just get these sections perfect. Then it should go together with no issues when it's time to put it together. So that is that problem sorted out. So let us look at what step 2 is, because we basically, if we look at this, we looked at step 1 there. So let's get on to, I'll put the links up while we get the next page of the instructions out. And I believe we're going to be looking into some photo etch. And I'll show you what I mean. Put this up. Okay, so there we go. So we have these side walls going on here, and they are, let's see, I'm going to work on the focus, but it's B5, B1, B23, B24, B2, and B6. So I know, because I studied the photo etch very carefully, the instructions for the photo etch very carefully, and I know that in this section of the instructions, right here is those numbers. I had to turn off the autofocus, but these are basically all these parts. I have to put all these doors on there. So we're going to take a look at those parts, these 3 sections here, and then we're going to take a look at the photo etch parts that are going to go on there, and we're going to take a look at how they're going to be fitted and see what that step's going to look like. So we'll pop over there, and I will get these out. So that is the B sprue. And unfortunately, the numbers for the photo etch piece are just numbers. They don't tell you what fret they're on. And I believe there's 4 or 5 frets, and there's hundreds and hundreds of parts. So this is machine gun. So let's go back to the overhead side. There we go. Sorry about the swap there. So this is the machine guns. We're going to get into weapons. Video coming up shortly, but we need parts 33, 32, or 36 and for B2 and B1. And if I look at the instructions, B1 is in the middle, so we'll take a look at B1. So that's basically going to be part 33 if we want the door closed, part 32, 36 if we want the door open. So that's the option. So let's take a look at both of those parts. So 32, 33 are going to be doors. So hopefully they stand out. The 20s, here we go, here's 30, here we go. Okay, so I'm hoping I can zoom in on these parts here, and you can see how tiny they are. Okay. So there is 32 with the open door right there. There's your open door models right there. And then there's your 33s over here with your closed door model. So as you can see, they are super tiny. And then here's your 36 with it opening the other way. So you can have it open either way that you want to have it open. So we have to check the references and see which way it would actually open. I don't think I want to do an open door because there's not an interior, and it would look weird to have an open door just stuck onto the part. Unless that open door goes over the stairwell. No, it doesn't. So, it doesn't expose the stairwell. So let's take a look at B1. So this is B1 right here. Focus that. There's B1 and this is the doors right here. There's two of them. There's one there and one there. So they have to be removed, I believe, yes. So these doors need to be scraped off. I don't know if I can bring that in any closer so you can see that door. It's giving me some kind of double angle thing. Right there's the door. There we go. See the door right there? I can't point to it now because my hand's behind it. But it's right there. So that needs to be scraped off, sanded flat, so it's perfectly flat. And then we can glue on one of these little doors right here. One of these 33s. Because I believe I'm going to go with I'm going to go with the closed door. So, oh, here we go. Are you going to reinforce the seam line with a piece of poster? Yeah, I could possibly. Hey, Love Minis. I am going to reinforce the seams. I am enjoying your builds. Oh, thank you, Del Dare. Yeah, the etch is super scary, dude. Oh, the etch is super scary. I was looking at the 20mm Oerlikon machine guns, looking at the instructions, and looking at how tiny the pieces are to fold. Yeah, I'm going to be using tweezers to fold them, like teeny tiny pointy tweezers like that is almost too big to fold it, but that's what I'm going to use. I don't think there's any tweezers smaller than that. So while we're putting on doors, and we have a lot of doors to place, if you take a look at these photo etch instructions, doors need to be placed on all these parts right here, and then all these parts over here. This gets 37A and this gets 37. So let's finish taking a look here. Here is your 37. I zoomed back out, I'm sorry. So here's your 37, and it goes all the way down into your 37A right here. So that's a lot of doors. You're looking at doors on 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 26 doors, pieces getting doors. Some are going to get multiple doors. And then you have the B1 and B2 are also going to be getting doors. So in the next video, I am going to demonstrate the process of cleaning off where the door goes off of here, cleaning this part off. And there's a multitude of ways of doing that. There's just a lot of different ways. As you can see, like B3 is one that gets doors. It gets 37. It has 2 doors. B4 has 2 doors. 1 and 2 have 2 doors. 6 has 3 doors. 5 has 2 doors. 9 has 2 doors. 7 has a door. 8 has a door.
If you look at 7 and 8, how small they are, that's going to be very hard to remove that door feature right there. So I'm going to probably do that on the sprue. But if you look at this entire B sprue, all of these have doors on them that are going to get replaced. More tiny pieces. All these doors on an angle. I have to use a special block for that. So this isn't a weekend build. This is a very time in a lot of time to do this. And there's also parts on the C sprue. On the G sprue too. There we go. We got the C sprue out now. And there's more doors on these. Yeah, there's these sections right here. Doors on these 4 pieces that are going to have to be taken off, and they're tiny pieces. The best thing to do with pieces like that are going to be that small, let me just move some of this stuff out of the way so I don't damage any of it, is to have a fixture like this vise right here. That's still in the shot. Like a vise like this that I have a block in that has poster tack on it, putty. Like, thanks for stopping by down there. How am I? I'm getting to how I'm gonna make it flat, love minis. Just getting there. It's a lot of process. I'm gonna stick it on there. So there's a couple options of getting it flat, and I have a very special tool in mind. That's in a drawer. Right here it is. This is a micro chisel, and for my Patreons, it is going to be a review soon. It is a very tiny, 1 millimeter wide, very, very sharp micro chisel. And if you're super careful and you attach it to some ticky tack like this, you can very carefully scrape it off and then do a little bit of light sanding to make sure it's all even and flush. Luckily, I'm doing the closed doors, so if there's a little bit of a gouge mark, it's going to be hidden by the door, but you basically want to make sure it's flat as possible. Because in 1/350th scale, a little bit out of sync is like feet out of sync. So it needs to be perfectly straight, it needs to be perfectly flat, it needs to be super tiny. So that's going to be a project. I'm going to demonstrate doing that. I'm going to do it on some large pieces. I'm going to do it on some small pieces where I just have a video of carving doors off. And that's not all. I mean, there's not just doors to carve off. There is a multitude of stuff to carve off here that needs to be removed. Anywhere there's this orangey, reddish, pink color, salmon, that's all stuff that has to be removed. And it tells you that in the reference. So as I go through the book, I mean, I'm maybe going to get a page, half a page a week, things like that. I'm going to go through systematically, and like for this section, it's going to be a whole thing of just doing doors. Because I know that I can do all these doors and then worry about putting them on the ship later. Currently, move that out of the way. Move these sprues out of the way also. Off camera, I am going to work on the method of not damage my photo etch. Hold on, sorry about this.
which is super delicate. So I'm going to work on reinforcing the boat, this lower section, making sure all this matches up. Now, honestly, I may even glue the deck in. I may glue the deck in before I make any modifications to the bottom, so I know that it's squeezed up and the deck's perfectly tight. And then slice these and then position them perfect on there and then reinforce them that way. And then just make sure I can take it on and off and make sure everything's good. Because I may end up putting some weight in the bottom of the ship itself, because as we saw in the beginning of the stream, I don't know what this stand is. I don't know. I don't understand. I mean, it doesn't hold it. It doesn't hold it at all. Maybe if it had the pellet, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. Also, if I look through the instructions here, because I'm going to be gluing this to this earlier than the instructions reveal, there is some work at the back here that needs to be done. We're going to use the instruction camera because that's why I have it. Instruction cam. If you look at this section down here, over here, that needs to be, all these propellers and rudders need to be put on while this is upside down. So after I get everything lined up to make sure everything's going to fit correctly, I'm going to glue all that assembly on, wrap it in foam so it doesn't get damaged and broken off, because it will. And then I will glue everything on here, make sure all the seams are great, do any filling or sanding out and anything like that. And then I'll probably put a coat of paint on this and do the lower hull and the water line and the stripe and the strip. So all I'd have to do is box in the side colors based on the reference photos. But once the bottom's done, that can be painted and it won't hurt anything. Because most of the stuff's going to be done on the top section. Could probably even do the deck treatment if I was careful with just putting the other stuff in. So would also be nice is to be able to take this off, have it be a perfect fit, and glue some of these pins and posts from behind. So now that I see that as an option, so that way I could technically finish the deck and then just glue everything from their pin post from the bottom. So that's an option too. I'm going to think on it this week, and I'll have some answers by next week's video. Next week's video probably not going to be a long, it probably won't be a live stream. I'm hoping I have all the recording software and everything set up so I can start actual recording of videos and releasing them instead of doing live streams. Just currently the live streams are working, and it seems to be the easiest setup to do at this time. But this is the USS North Carolina. You guys can visit me at the following links on social media: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Email me any questions. The links are also in the description. I don't have a slide for my Patreon page. If you want to help support the channel, it helps, with computers, software, cameras, gets extra stuff. I'm always trying to add new things, trying to work on some lighting issues, work on, the instruction camera, make sure that's better. So any donations help with that. Plus, there'll be giveaways. More people donate, I'll be doing giveaways for some cool stuff, model grab bags, things like that. Also, there's a giveaway coming up with the Yag Tiger. Once the lower hull's done, I'll be doing a model bag grab bag giveaway, and you get 5 extra entries a month being a Patreon at a $5 level. So basically, for every dollar you give on Patreon, you get an entry every month, so it adds up. So
that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for the comments. And for those of you who watch this afterwards, leave comments below. Email me any questions, any more you want to see. Until next week on the North Carolina, you guys have a fantastic day.